The transport ship sliced through the low clouds, scattering mist across the emerald canopy below. Its thrusters hissed as it descended, settling into the clearing with the finality of a conqueror claiming another nameless world. A ramp extended, and armored figures emerged, their heavy steps pressing deep into the wet earth. Each soldier moved with precise efficiency, every motion calculated and deliberate. The air shimmered with heat from their suits, the smell of scorched foliage lingering where their boots met the ground. To them, this planet was merely another checkpoint in their empire's endless expansion, and they approached it with the dull arrogance of routine victory. At their head walked Commander Varkel, his posture a perfect sculpture of command. He surveyed the jungle with practiced disdain, unimpressed by the thick humidity clinging to his armor. "A single human operative," he muttered, his voice carrying through his helmet's comms. "That is all command believes can hinder us here." His tone suggested amusement more than disbelief. The others chuckled, their voices echoing like metallic laughter. They had fought humans before, thin, fragile creatures whose reliance on primitive firearms had earned them more ridicule than respect. To these soldiers, humans were not adversaries but reminders of an age when wars were fought without honor, when courage hid behind gunpowder and luck. Deep within the jungle's tangle of roots and shadows, the human watched. Hale lay prone, camouflaged beneath layers of dirt, leaves, and patience. His heartbeat matched the rhythm of the forest around him, unhurried and steady. The rifle nestled against his shoulder was old-fashioned by alien standards, projectile-based, chemically propelled, but it was reliable, efficient, and his closest companion. Through the scope, he studied the aliens' movements, noting how they stood too close together, how their armor plates overlapped clumsily at the joints. He listened to their laughter, their careless confidence, and allowed himself the faintest of smiles. Every arrogant enemy was predictable in the end. The jungle was dense, alive, and indifferent. The air buzzed with insects, the scent of damp earth rising like breath from the planet itself. To the aliens, the environment was an obstacle, something to push through, to dominate. To Hale, it was an extension of himself. He felt its pulse through the soil beneath his chest, its shelter in every leaf, its concealment in every shadow. The forest did not protect him out of loyalty. It simply existed, and in its wild balance, he found belonging. The aliens fanned out under Varkel's command, their scanners sweeping arcs of invisible light through the foliage. Thermal sweep initiated, one reported, his tone brimming with overconfidence. The scanners pinged faintly, detecting small signatures, rodents, birds, and something vaguely human-shaped. "Likely a mammal," the soldier said dismissively. "No threat detected." Varkel nodded once. "Proceed." "I grow tired of this humidity." Hale adjusted his scope and drew in a slow breath. His finger hovered near the trigger, steady as the weight of the moment settled on him. He had learned long ago that fear was merely energy waiting to be directed, and he directed it toward precision. Through his scope, he saw Varkel's broad silhouette framed against the clearing. The commander's posture was perfect, his arrogance unmistakable. Hale exhaled, the sound lost beneath the hum of insects. The shot broke the stillness. A sharp, concise crack rippled through the air, vanishing almost as soon as it was born. The lead soldier jerked, armor ringing like struck metal. Confusion spread before realization. "Impact detected," someone shouted, their voice trembling. Varkel turned sharply, scanning the trees, the laughter gone from his tone. Hale lowered his rifle, already moving to a new position. He didn't need to see their faces to know the change that had come over them. In that single instant, the forest ceased to feel conquered. The lesson had begun, and the predators had just discovered what it felt like to be hunted. The first alien fell to one knee, clutching his chest in disbelief. The round had not pierced his armor, yet something inside the plate had cracked, a faint shimmer of energy flickering across the seams. The squad erupted into motion, scanning the jungle with thermal sensors, weapons raised. Commander Varkel barked orders, his voice vibrating through the comms. But beneath his authority, there was the first tremor of unease. The jungle was silent now, as if holding its breath, waiting for the next sound that would prove this planet was not as harmless as he had assumed. Hale had already shifted position, crawling backward through a narrow trench of roots, his movements fluid and practiced. He counted heartbeats rather than seconds. The rifle's barrel glinted faintly before he covered it again, ensuring not a single flash betrayed his new vantage point. His face was expressionless, but his mind moved quickly, calculating angles, wind patterns, the rhythm of alien patrols. They were disciplined, but discipline without humility was a brittle thing. He had seen entire squads break under less pressure. Varkel's soldiers began firing indiscriminately into the trees, plasma bolts searing through vines and bark. The air thickened with the scent of ozone and burning sap. Hale watched their display of power with calm detachment. Every shot they fired betrayed a position. Every burst of energy distorted their sensors. They were blind in their own brilliance. He steadied his breathing again, letting the chaos become background noise. The jungle was his ally, and allies didn't panic. He remembered the briefing. These aliens prized heavy armor and strength over mobility. They believed the universe could be subdued through force alone. Hale had no intention of proving them entirely wrong, but he would remind them that force without understanding was weakness wearing a mask. He lined up his scope on a second target, just beneath the shoulder joint where armor plates overlapped. The shot rang out, a sharp report swallowed almost instantly by the humidity. The alien spun, roaring more in outrage than pain, but his weapon arm sagged, servos whining as the limb locked halfway. Hale didn't watch for the reaction. He was already moving again. He counted his steps, his breaths, his distance from the muzzle flash of the first position. Movement was survival. Stillness was death. The aliens shouted to one another, their translator units glitching under the strain of overlapping signals. They called him insect ghost coward. He smiled faintly, not out of pride, but because such words were predictable. Varkel crouched beside his injured soldier, studying the damaged armor. The plating had not been punctured, but the internal framework was splintered. The kinetic energy from that tiny projectile had fractured the structure from within. He couldn't understand it. How can so small a weapon carry such force? He muttered, though none dared answer. For the first time, his confidence faltered. He rose, scanning the jungle with slower, more deliberate eyes. Hale steadied his rifle again. He could end the commander now, but he hesitated. Killing was not always victory. Sometimes survival demanded patience and precision of a different sort. He wanted them to understand what they were facing before they ran. Knowledge could wound deeper than any bullet. He took another breath, feeling the rifle settle against his shoulder, the familiar weight anchoring him to purpose. One more shot cracked through the still air, striking near the commander's feet, spraying soil and fragments of shattered armor plate. The message was clear: you're being hunted, not attacked. Varkel froze. The jungle whispered again, leaves trembling, unseen life stirring, and Hale vanished once more into its depths. The war had changed shape, and neither side could pretend otherwise. The commander's patience frayed as another wave of static swept across his visor, scrambling the targeting reticles. Varkel slapped the side of his helmet, as though brute force might restore clarity, but the interference only deepened. His soldiers tightened their formation, weapons trembling slightly in their grips. Hale watched them from a new perch atop a thick root system, steady as the jungle itself. He could see the tension building inside the alien ranks, their former bravado dissolving into a rigid, panicked alertness. Fear made them sloppy. Sloppiness made them vulnerable. One alien launched a hovering drone, its shell humming as it scanned for thermal signatures. Hale ducked beneath a curtain of leaves while the drone drifted overhead. He remained absolutely still, letting the jungle heat mask him. When the drone passed, he counted 3 seconds, just enough time for it to triangulate elsewhere. Then he rolled silently down a slope of moss-covered earth. His body moved with practiced efficiency, the forest floor absorbing each motion like an old friend. Below him, the aliens formed a firing line, shooting bursts of plasma into the trees in tight arcs. The heat ripped through the foliage, igniting whole patches that smoldered before dying in the damp air. Their desperation betrayed them more effectively than any tracer round. Hale angled his rifle toward one soldier who seemed steadier than the rest. A lieutenant, perhaps, judging by the deliberate way he scanned the undergrowth. The optics hummed softly as Hale adjusted his scope. He wasn't eager to drop the more competent ones first. He simply needed to unravel their cohesion. He exhaled and squeezed. The shot cracked across the canopy. The lieutenant's leg buckled, joints seizing as tiny internal components snapped under the shock. He toppled sideways, not injured mortally but rendered combat ineffective. His scream echoed through the trees, tinged with disbelief, as if the idea of failing in front of his commander wounded him more deeply than the blow itself. Hale shifted before the body hit the ground. He knew better than to linger after a destabilizing shot. Varkel roared for the squad to regroup. His soldiers clustered around him, searching for targets they couldn't see. Their tech illuminated the world in shades of false color, but Hale moved into shadows between those colors, slipping through blind spots like they were made for him. Varkel sensed the pattern now. The human shot, relocated, then watched. It wasn't random violence. It was a methodical lesson. That realization sharpened his anger into something colder, something closer to dread. The aliens attempted a coordinated sweep, advancing in a staggered wedge formation meant to flush out hidden attackers. But the jungle resisted them at every turn. Roots tripped their heavy boots, vines tangled at their armor vents, and thick branches blocked clean lines of fire. Hale circled around them, steps soft, posture low, always maintaining the advantage of elevation and concealment. They were fighting the environment as much as him, and the environment was winning. He paused near a cluster of towering ferns, steadied his rifle, and aimed at the commander's shoulder guard. He didn't fire. Instead, he watched Varkel's movements, evaluating his adaptability. The commander was still dangerous, focused, unbroken, slower to panic than the others. Hale respected that, even admired it. But respect didn't grant immunity. A sudden crack of foliage drew every alien's attention to their right. Hale smiled. A falling branch, nothing more, but it was enough to fracture their last attempt at discipline. While their heads turned, he shifted again, reaching a vantage point directly above them. From this angle, their armor seams gleamed like a map of weaknesses. He fired once more. The round struck the ground just in front of Varkel, exploding upward in a spray of dirt that rattled against the commander's helmet. It was a warning, deliberate and unmistakable. Hale wanted him to understand that every direction offered danger, every assumption was flawed, and every step forward might be his last. Varkel's breath quickened. The jungle no longer felt like terrain. It felt like a trap constructed by a silent adversary who understood every inch of it. He raised his visor, scanning the treetops with naked eyes, searching for the ghost who refused to face him openly. Hale saw the gesture and knew its meaning. The commander wanted clarity. He would soon receive it, though not in the form he expected. Varkel steadied himself, forcing his breath into a disciplined rhythm as the jungle closed around him like a living verdict. His soldiers huddled nearby, shaken, their armor buzzing with malfunctioning circuits. Hale watched them from a concealed ridge, studying the commander with renewed interest. Varkel's resolve had not collapsed, though it trembled under mounting pressure. Hale respected that persistence, yet knew determination alone could not prevent what was coming. The jungle absorbed every whispered command the aliens shared, carrying their anxiety like drifting pollen. Hale let the silence stretch, giving them space to recognize the consequences of their arrogance now. One soldier attempted to rise, but his damaged leg servos sparked violently, forcing him back to the ground. Varkel knelt beside him, masking concern with authority, though Hale could see the strain tightening the commander's jaw. Fear had not defeated them yet, but it shaped their every movement. Hale shifted slightly, adjusting the rifle against his shoulder while observing the fragile cohesion holding the squad together. They were powerful, but power meant nothing when stripped of certainty. Varkel signaled for a diagnostic reset, pretending control he no longer possessed. Hale exhaled once, steady and deliberate, preparing to end the standoff. A single shot could finish Varkel, yet Hale hesitated, sensing the faint spark of introspection growing behind the commander's hardened posture. He wanted understanding, not merely surrender. Hale shifted his aim downward and fired at a plasma rifle resting beside one of the soldiers. The weapon shattered, sending fragments skittering across the soil. The squad recoiled, startled but unharmed. Varkel looked toward the blast, eyes widening as comprehension dawned. The human wasn't exterminating them. He was dismantling their assumptions piece by piece. Hale remained motionless, allowing the commander to weigh that reality against every arrogant certainty he carried with him. Varkel stepped forward cautiously, raising both hands to signal restraint rather than defiance. His soldiers watched him with disbelief, unaccustomed to seeing their commander yield even a gesture. Hale tracked every movement but did not fire. Varkel spoke, his voice low, requesting terms rather than demanding them. The subtle shift revealed a leader capable of reason, though late in discovering it. Hale replied through their open channel, explaining that dominance meant nothing without awareness, and that underestimating an opponent invited ruin. The words struck deeper than the bullets, carrying a clarity Varkel could not ignore. He lowered his head slightly. Hale descended the ridge slowly, ensuring each step was audible enough to keep the squad from panicking. He emerged from the foliage like a shadow, reluctantly granting shape to itself. His rifle remained pointed downward, not in surrender, but in demonstration of control. Varkel stiffened, torn between instinct and comprehension, yet he held his ground. Hale stopped several meters away, studying the battered armor, the fear hidden behind the visors, and the dawning humility settling over the squad. They were no longer conquerors. They were students. Silence stretched between them, heavy but no longer hostile, waiting for resolution to come. Hale raised one hand and pointed toward the canopy, signaling that extraction was their wisest choice. Varkel nodded slowly, acknowledging defeat without humiliation, understanding now that survival required adaptation rather than pride. Hale stepped back into the undergrowth, merging once more with the jungle that had shielded him. The aliens gathered their wounded and activated a beacon, the light flickering weakly through drifting mist. As engines rumbled in the distance, Varkel cast one final look toward the trees, searching for the figure who had reshaped his beliefs. But Hale was already gone, leaving only silence and scattered casings behind now.